You're listening to the Doctor Is In podcast, brought to you by MartinClinic.com. During the episode, the doctors share a lot of information. As awesome as the info may be, it is not intended to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent any disease. It's strictly for informational purposes.
Well, good morning, everyone. In another day of solitary confinement. Crazy, isn't it? We live in a you can hardly believe. I was talking with my son-in-law yesterday, and we were just talking about, he was down in Florida, and everything that they did. We went to a baseball game. It was the last baseball game. They were the last day at Disneyland. They were last day of the, we were at the beach when the police came in a week ago, Monday. And they closed the beach in at least the beach, all the beaches in South Florida where we were. So it hasn't, like, the world has changed in a week, like craziness in Ontario. Now they've told, small businesses, you got to close. So we live in a different world altogether. Having my eggs with a slice of pork and some Jarlsberg cheese. Now, what is Jarlsberg cheese? I'm not kidding you. I learn something every day because is your clinic closing? No, it's not. Okay. Now, the actual store for people that are walking in, yes, but you can, online, we're going strong. Okay. So we are able to send the products by post and by delivery, of course, and so it's still open, and we're open. You can talk. We're still around. Okay, guys. So after or during the podcast or video yesterday, we were talking about the sun and how important it is, and then people were saying, well, for example, in Florida, they haven't been immune to the COVID-19. I mean, it's not terrible there in Florida, but does the sun really kill the virus? And people were saying, well, if that's the case, because I said it yesterday, why is it in Florida, for example? And but Keith, you know this, you were down in Costa Rica. There are very few cases there. And generally what's happened in Florida, and I know this because I was there, anybody that got it was people that were traveling abroad and brought it back to Florida. Now let me just say a few things. And by the way, I'm going to try and post a couple of studies that will confirm what I said, okay? So I'm not just taking this out of my hat. These are studies that are out. As a matter of fact, like if you look at, when you study infectious disease, one of the things you look at is, how long does it last? You look at, for example, how long does it take before you get it? Does it lay dormant? Like this one here, they got me 14 days in self-isolation because I came back from Florida. And I understand it. I get it. Stay away from other people. I haven't even been able to see my grandchildren. I mean, I don't care about my kids, but my grandchildren, that's hard, right? So, we're in self-isolation, and I get it. I understand it. They don't want the spread of this disease, and Keith is just confirming what I said. It's in Costa Rica from people that flew into the country. Otherwise, it wouldn't have it. The same in Florida, by the way. Now, I want to send you these things on infectious disease, but I want to give you a little history. Because in 1918, in the Spanish flu, killed millions of people. It didn't really originate in Spain, but they called it the Spanish flu because a lot of soldiers had come back after World War I, were coming back to North America. They were traveling in ships. They were in close quarters. They had brought this bug back with them, and many died. Many died. Millions of people died from the Spanish flu. But here's what they learned, because every time you have a crisis like this in terms of SARS and MERS, you learn things. They're going to learn things in this one that perhaps they didn't know before, because every virus, every bug is a little bit different. And here's what they're doing. Medicine is focusing in right now on vaccines, right? You've heard that. There's a vaccine. As a matter of fact, they're rushing the vaccine for COVID-19. And I'm not against that. If they find it, good for them. But guys, this is the truth. They haven't found a vaccine for the common cold, which is a variation of the coronavirus. They haven't found it after all these years. There's no vaccine for the common cold. And when they do it for the flu shot, what happens? They guess. That's a fact. Because every year they don't know what exactly the flu is going to look like. That's science, guys. So we've made huge advancements, but we're still like I was mentioning yesterday, this thing is a nanometer. Like it's you couldn't see the COVID-19 if your life depended on it with the naked eye. It is that small, and yet look what it's done. It's put us on our knees, hopefully praying to God, but on our knees economically too. I mean, they're shutting everything down, but they're looking for a vaccine. I get it. Pharmaceutical companies, that's what they're good at. Of course they're looking for a vaccine. And they might find a vaccine for COVID-19, but what happens when the next one comes with a variation of it? Now, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I'm not even sure that this particular virus wasn't manufactured in a lab. Is it possible that the Chinese were playing with biomedical stuff in a lab and they created this? And I'm not saying they did it on purpose. I'm just saying that this one is unlike any other one because it doesn't affect the children. Imagine a virus that by and large, the children are not at risk of this. The reason they closed the school is so that children wouldn't bring it home to the grandparents, because it doesn't affect children. Have you ever heard of a virus that doesn't affect children whose immune systems are immature? I mean, usually, you know what a daycare is and whatever. It's a petri dish. Kids having a cold is normal because children are always like their immune system haven't created all the antibodies to fight all these things. True or false? True. And that's why, kids, they get sick more often. It's normal because their immune systems are building. Any physician knows that. But this particular virus does not affect the children. Okay? So here's Dr. Martin. I'm just going to do a little rant. We're quarantining the wrong people. We are. I mean, they've closed everything down. To me, that is a mistake. To me, okay? I understand why they're doing it. They're being so cautious, but they're closing everything down. And there are a lot of people online that this is the biggest fear. I mean, they are going crazy on steroids. If you're not 6 feet apart, and I'm not telling you not to wash your hands. I'm not telling you not to practice self-isolation. I'm not telling you not to 6 feet apart. And I'm not telling you any of those things. I'm just telling you science. This virus does not affect 99%. They don't affect children and they don't affect healthy people. And even if you get the virus and you're a carrier of this virus, if you have a healthy immune system, you're not going to get sick. You might get a cold, you might get a fever, you might be down for a day or two, but it's not It's not the Spanish flu. It's not. It's the vulnerable people. And to me, this is just me, they should be, like if you have underlying conditions, you can't come out of your house. Quarantine those, if you're a diabetic, you should be quarantined. But healthy people shouldn't be quarantined. That's Dr. Martin's opinion. Okay, I don't want to, like I said, don't come after me because I'm all for everything. I'm just telling you my opinion. Now, getting back to the Spanish flu. Generally, what happened, people were in these ships. They were coming home. They were in close quarters. And there was no fresh air. They were in no fresh air and no sunlight. Just generally, this is what was happening. And isn't it interesting that the people, once this thing took off, they were putting people in tents and treating them. They were putting them outside during the day when the sun was out and into fresh air. It was actually called the fresh air therapy. They realized that fresh air, a virus does not do well in fresh air. This is why, if you look, just study it. You can Google this stuff if you want. The flu season is the flu season. True or false? True. The flu season is the flu season. There's a season for it. They don't talk to you about getting a flu shot in the summer, do they? Do they? Why don't they? Have you ever thought of that? You don't go to the pharmacy, in the States, they're advertising the flu shot in the fall. When I get there in November, they say, come and get your flu shot in Florida. But they don't advertise the flu shot in the summer in Canada or in Florida. They don't. They don't want. Well, first of all, in the summer, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, get together and they try and decide what bug is coming to a theater near you in the fall. What happens in the fall? Not in Florida, but everywhere else. Pretty well. You're not going outside as much. You are not being exposed to the sun as much. Well, certainly not getting your vitamin D because you usually, look, where do you live? I live in Northern Ontario. You're not baking in the sun in the fall. Well, guys, this is just, medicine knows this. It's well documented. The flu season is usually 12 or 16 weeks. Folks, April is coming. They're not even talking about this. I can't even believe it. But April is coming. Let me look at my calendar. Next week, April is coming. Any epidemiologist knows that April is coming. When they do the flu season, they know that once April comes, the flu goes this way, 100% downwards in terms of a trend. Even the coronavirus is going to have a lifespan. Now look I'm not saying that it can't spread anymore, but the curve is going to go down. 100% for sure. Why? The weather. The weather. It's just common sense, guys. And so I get it. You want to close the borders. You want to restrict travel because you don't want to carry it and go someplace else, give it to someone else. But they're not talking about this, but they should be. Once the weather is better and you and I can go outside today, it's sunny outside today, at least where I am. I went for 2 walks. I'm getting out, even though, I'm glad they haven't told us that I have to stay in the house. Now, if you have COVID-19, they're telling you to stay in the house. They'll arrest you if you leave the house. But that's not right. I'm not saying those people should have contact with anybody else. What I am saying is they should be allowed to go outside to get the fresh air and the sunlight. Yeah, you can go, Natalie, you can go for walks. I know I can go for a walk. I'm asymptomatic. But you're not hearing this. You should be hearing this. I tell you, one of the greatest vaccines that you can take is fresh air and the sunlight. Vitamin D. And Tony Jr. put out an email. He did if you get our emails, watch that video that Tony Jr. did on vitamin D and the immune system. It's absolutely incredible to optimize your vitamin D. Folks, if you're not taking vitamin D during this crisis, I don't know what to say to you. You need vitamin D. The best way to get it is the sun. The sun. The sun. But doctors know this. They know this. They knew it in 1918. It's one of the things that came out in 1918 after the Spanish flu, after they buried millions of people. They realized it was actually called open air therapy. They actually named it open air therapy. Now, it sort of got lost in the 1950s with the discovery. Antibiotics were discovered before that, but they used antibiotics, and I get it, but they're not even talking about antibiotics, are they, with this? Because it's a virus. Now, the President of the United States is talking about a couple of drugs, a malaria drug and this and that. I'm all for it. If it works, I'm all for it. You know? I want that. That's where the pharmaceutical industry are good. Go find something. I doubt if they get a vaccine, guys. I'm not confident in vaccines as much for this. Why? Because it'll come back and it'll have a mutation to it. Viruses have intelligence. You got that? I'm going to turn into this with a little modification, and they become the virus doesn't respond to the vaccine. Now, I'm not against vaccine. Don't come after me, please, please, please. I'm just talking to you about what UV radiation does. The sun. I'll give you another example. You know where mold doesn't grow? Where does mold grow? In dampness. True or false? Right? You can get mold in your bathroom. You know, the showers, teenagers taking showers all the time for 2 hours, right? Or in your basement, if you have water, ever come into your basement, you get mold. You know how you cure mold? Sun. Mold can't live in the sunlight, but neither can bacteria or viruses. They don't have babies. They don't have babies. When you put them in the sun, they don't multiply. They can't. Guys, why is no one talking about this? Why is no one? And this is why, if you follow me, when they were closing the beach, I know, don't get all upset. Why were they closing the beaches? I was saying last week that the Canadian government, for the amount of money they're going to spend, you wait. We haven't seen anything yet of the amount of money this is going to cost. When we say the government, that's you and me, isn't it? Wait till you see what they have to do to try and stimulate this economy and get money to people that don't have money. It will be, in Canada, billions, and in the United States, trillions. That's what it's going to cost. All I was saying is, what they should do to us Canadians, they were telling all us snowbirds, come home, come home. And we all rushed home. I did. Why? Why did Dr. Martin rush home? Because the government told me to come home. I know I obey. But secondly, the insurance companies, you need travel insurance. They were saying, if Canada put out a warning, you better get home, because my insurance gave me 10 days to get home. After Canada put out a warning, for Canadians abroad to come home. But where Keith was in Costa Rica, he was safer in Costa Rica than he is in Windsor. Yours truly was safer in Florida than I am in Sudbury. We could transport planes, could take Canadians and bring us to Florida and sit us on the beach would be the best therapy you could get for this virus. 100% for sure. Now I know there was kids on the beach and they weren't practicing social distancing, and I get that, I understand that. But the safest place was on that beach. The virus was, I hate the beach. I hate this sun. I'll give you another reason that in Florida, I mean, look, it's no different than anywhere else when it comes to the seniors and people with pre-existing conditions, because the only people that have died there thus far, now people have gotten the virus there, and like I said, their statistics are no different. They're generally not sick at all, or very little, but the old people and people with pre-existing conditions, but they don't get in the sun. You've heard me say this a million times. If I could get into every senior home, what would I bring with me? Vitamin D. Folks, vitamin D. It's the greatest vitamin for your immune system. Proven. Thousands of studies. And yet, nobody is talking about it. Except a few kooks like me. I mean it. I can't get over it. Vitamin D. So, you know, what am I saying? What I'm saying is, look, obey the government. I'm not telling you not to. All I'm saying is, yesterday I talked about the elephant in the room, metabolic syndrome. And today I'm talking to you about the sun. You can see the sun behind me coming through those shades. And I'm going out today. And I'll practice social distancing. I get that. I'll wash my hands frequently. I get that too. But guys, the best mask that you can wear is vitamin D. Yeah, because it helps everything. But there isn't a cell in your body that doesn't respond to vitamin D. Did you know that? Your heart cells, your brain cells, your muscle cells, your gut cells, every cell in your body responds to it. And so, you get it? The open air therapy. Google it. That's what it was called. The open air therapy. And so, where am I? Where am I on this? Okay, so I'm telling you, so that you don't misquote me. You know, I'm telling you, there's two worlds. There's medicine, pharmaceutical, and there is the nutraceutical. And you know what? God bless the pharmaceutical company. They're looking for a vaccine. You know, I get it. They can patent it. And hey, I'm not against it. Go for it. If this malaria drug works, hey, go for it, man. Well, for the people that are very ill, I mean, you won't need it. You're not going to need it, right? But it's great that it could be available. Apparently, the FDA has cleared the path for this to be used. Okay. Okay, but I'm a big guy on the open air therapy. So guys, if you can, get outside. Get outside today. Even without the sun, fresh air is good. My mother, I'm going to close with this. My mom, I remember this very much. And actually, my wife practiced this with our 4 kids. We were brought up in Timmins, Ontario. It was nothing to be 40 below. But my mom used to wrap up the babies. You know, my mom had a baby every year, it seems. We had 11 children. But I'll never forget, because as a kid, My mom used to use the open air therapy. It was 40 below. The sun was out, but it was 40 below, and she'd wrap that baby in like a mummy in a snowsuit and the scarves and whatever, and just give a little bit so they could breathe. And she would put them outside in 40 below weather. And my mom would say to me, I remember because I often asked her, Ma, is that good? She said, the best thing for the baby. Put them outside. Oh, because my mom was born in 1924. They learned the lessons of 1918 and the Spanish flu. Good story, isn't it? True. And even Rosie with our 4 kids. Put those babies outside in the wintertime. They slept like babies too. In that fresh air. Okay, love you guys. Talk to you soon.
You've reached the end of another Doctor is In podcast with your hosts, Dr. Martin Jr. and Sr. Be sure to catch our next episode, and thanks for listening.